Morning, guys. Since last week on Thursday, we went over how to add integers with like signs and also with different signs. It's adding numbers 4 minus 7 or -7 plus 3. Those are adding integers. And you have to be really good at adding these integers in order to move on to simplifying algebraic expressions. Because when we simplify algebraic expressions, the first thing we need to do is we need to understand the distributive property. We've gone through the distributive property several times during this year, so this should be a very quick review for you on the distributive property. And then once we distribute to simplify the algebraic expression, we are going to have to add like terms. Now this is a review also. We know how to add like terms, okay? But sometimes like terms are going to be positive and sometimes they're going to be negative or sometimes they're going to be both. And that's why it was important for you guys to understand how to add integers, right? Positives and negatives, because that's going to relate to simplifying algebraic expressions. Okay? So, what is the distributive property? Let's go ahead and review that. The distributive property says that if I have A, that's just a value, times another value added to another value inside parentheses, okay? The distributive property says that I can distribute this A by multiplying to B and to C. So this would equal, that would be multiplication. So that is going to equal A times B, which is expressed algebraically as AB, plus A times C, which is expressed as AC. Okay? Now we also know the commutative property, and the commutative property says that A times B plus C can also be written as B plus C times A, where all we did is we moved the A to the other side of the parentheses. All right? Now, we can still, even if the A is on this side, I can still distribute that A to both B and C. So this doesn't change the value of it by placing the A on the backside. We can still distribute it. This still equals AB, because A times B plus A times C. Still equals the same thing. Okay? That is the distributive property. All right? What is adding like terms? Well, the first thing we need to know is what is a like term. Well, a like term is any term, so a like term is any term that has identical variables. Okay, it's any term that has identical variables. So let's go back to this distributive property. A is a variable, B is a variable, and C is a variable. All right? Now we turn that into two variables, which would be AB and AC. Do any of these look identical to each other? No. So they are not like terms, okay? And the only thing we can add together or subtract are like terms. They have to have the identical variable. So what does that look like? Well, if I have 9 times a times b squared times x, all right, what is a like term to this term? This is a term, all right? Is 9abx a like term? No, it is not a like term. It's similar. It's got an a, a b, and an x, but it's not identical. It has to be identical. So 9abx is not a like term. Is ab squared x a like term? Yes, it is, right? Because like terms have identical variables. So the variable here, a b squared x, is identical to a b squared x. That is a like term, okay? Is 7a squared bx, is that a like term to 9ab squared x? No. Even though it has the same variables, it's not identical, because in this one the a is squared and in this one the b is squared. So they are not like terms. Okay? You cannot add those. Okay? So sometimes like terms are very easy. Sometimes you have 9a plus 2a. Well, can we add those together? Yes, because the variables are identical. So when you add those together, you add the coefficients, which is 11, and you keep the variable. So that's 11a. Okay? Just think of it, I've got 9 apples, and I'm adding 2 apples. Well, how many apples am I going to have? I'm going to have 11 apples. Okay? That's how we add like terms. Okay? So now that we know what the distributive property is, and this should be reviewed, so it shouldn't be too difficult. This is the distributive property, and we know what adding like terms is like. First of all, you have to have like terms, right? Where a like term has identical variables. The variables have to be identical. A and ab squared x, ab squared x, they have to be identical. Then you just add them together. Okay? All right, so let's look at some algebraic expressions, and we're going to use the distributive property, and we are going to use adding like terms. Okay? So, for instance, let's say we have -2 times a plus b minus 4 times b plus a plus 3 times a plus b. Okay? So, this is an algebraic expression where we have 2 variables. We have a and we have b. All right? And what we want to do is we want to simplify this. So we want to make this as small as possible. Okay? So the first thing we do is distribute. Right? So we need to distribute this -2 to a plus b. And then we need to distribute -4. This negative is attached to this 4. So -4 times b plus a. And then a +3 times a plus b. All right? So let's distribute that. So -2 times a plus b. Well, I'm going to take my -2 and I'm going to multiply it by a. So negative 2 times a is negative 2a. And then I'm going to multiply my negative 2 times a positive b. Well, when I have a negative and a positive, that is going to be negative 2b. All right? Then we move to our next one. I've got negative 4 times a positive b. What does that equal? That equals negative 4b. Right? So I'm taking my coefficient, which is a negative 4, multiplying it by b, and then I'm going to multiply it by positive a. So then negative 4 times positive a is negative 4a. Then I'm going to look at our next coefficient, which is a positive 3. So I take the positive 3, I multiply it by a, and then I multiply it by b. So positive 3 times a is positive 3a. And a positive 3 times a positive b is positive 3b. Okay? So I just took the algebraic expression, and all I did was I distributed the coefficients to the parentheses. Okay? So now I've got negative 2a, negative 2b, negative 4b, negative 4a, positive 3a, and a positive 3b. Okay? So now the next step we need to do is we need to add like terms. So we need to identify our like terms. So let's start with the first term. I've got a negative 2a. So what is the variable of negative 2a? Well, the variable is a. So I need to find every other term in this expression that has a variable of a. And then I'm going to add those together. So I have negative 2a. I have a negative 4a. And I have a positive 3a. Those are all of my a's. So I can add all my a's together. So if I have negative 2a and I subtract 4a, what does that equal? Remember, when we have like signs, we just add the coefficients together. So 2 plus 4 is 6, and we have a's, and we keep the sign of the common sign, which is negative. So negative 2a minus 4a equals negative 6a. Now we also have a positive 3a. So I'm going to add 3a to my negative 6a, right? Now, remember, we have opposite signs here. So what do? Well, the rule is that we will subtract the smallest coefficient from the largest coefficient. So 6 minus 3 is what? It's 3. So that equals 3. And we're dealing with a's. And then you take the sign of the largest coefficient. Well, the largest coefficient is 6. So we take the sign of that 6. So that's going to be negative. All right? So negative 2a minus 4a plus 3a equals negative 3a. Okay? So we just combine those like terms. All right? Then we look at our other variable, which is b. And I've got a negative 2b, I have a negative 4b, and I have a positive 3b. All right? Well, all I have to do is change these guys, right? Because I have a negative 2b minus 4b. Oh, what does that equal? We just did it with a. Negative 2b minus 4b is negative 6b. So we took care of these two guys. Then we have to add 3b. Well, let's add 3b. This is going to give us the same coefficient as our a, right? Because we have negative 6 plus 3. So 6 minus 3 is 3. And you take the sign of the largest coefficient, which is negative 3b. So our answer is negative 3a minus 3b. Now, can we go any further than that? No, we can't. All right? We can't go any further because our terms are not like. I can't add those together, so I am done. I can't do anything more with that. Okay? So that is the answer. So this whole guy right here, this big guy, is the exact same thing as this little guy. All right? And you can see that if you have problems with these big algebraic expressions, how important it is to simplify it and get it to a smaller expression. Okay? It'll make things easier for you. So that's why we are learning how to do this. All right? So our first step is to do our distribution. Once we do our distribution, then we add the like terms. And that will fully simplify that algebraic expression. Okay? All right, let's get you some homework here. Let's see here. So your homework, I'm going to give you your first one. This is homework. Your first one is going to be w minus x plus y. I want you to simplify that algebraic expression. Your next one will be 4m minus 3 times 2n plus 7. All right, so I want you to fully simplify that. Number 3. I have got 7g minus 8 times 4k minus 3q. All right, I want you to simplify that. Then I want you to do 2/3 x plus 3/4 x. What does that equal? Number 5. I want you to do 16m minus 9n plus 4n minus 10n. Do that one. Number 6. I want you to do a times x minus 2a times x plus 6a times x minus 5a times x. All right. Number 7. Number 7, I would like for you to do x minus 4x minus 2y minus 5y. Let's see here. Number 8, I would like for you to do x minus 4x plus y. Number 9, negative brackets negative x plus y. And then 10. On this one, you're going to have to remember order of operation with parentheses. Okay? All it is a double distribution problem. And then your last one, let's do 5 times x plus y minus x plus y plus 3x plus y. All right, now remember on this one right here, also on these guys right here, do not forget that you have to distribute your negative into each one. Okay, so for instance, on this one, I've got a negative 1, and I'm going to distribute it to a positive x and a positive y. All right, so if I have negative x plus y, that equals, if I distribute that negative to a positive x, that turns that into a negative x, and then a negative times a positive y turns that into a negative y. Okay? So you do not forget that you have to distribute those negatives. Okay? All right. Good luck with that. That's your homework assignment today, and we will see you tomorrow. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.